On this episode of the Oklahoma Breakdown with Ikard and Lehman, presented by Riverwind Casino, OU's got a new wide receivers coach and are adding more guys through the portal. We recap Georgia's annihilation of TCU, and we give you our winners and losers of the week. Please download and subscribe to the podcast, rate it 5 stars, and write us a good review. Follow the show on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. Just search Oklahoma Breakdown on any of those, and you'll find us. All right. Our man Michael Hosty will kick this thing off. It's time for the Oklahoma Breakdown. It's a beautiful Wednesday, January 11th, and you're listening to the Oklahoma Breakdown with Ikard and Lehman, presented by Riverwind Casino. Riverwind is Oklahoma City's premier casino experience, and there are so many reasons why Riverwind is consistently voted OKC's #1 casino, but it all starts with their amazing variety of gaming thrills and excitement. Riverwind's beautiful award-winning environment plays host to more than 2,800 of the latest electronic games with a huge selection of table games, including blackjack match, roulette, and Teddy's favorite, craps. No matter what your game, Riverwind has it in spades and hearts. And to learn more about their gaming promotions and entertainment options in the month of January, all you got to do is visit riverwind.com. Riverwind Casino, simply the best. Now, recording this Wednesday morning, please leave us a 5-star review and a nice comment while you're at it. Ted, some people ask us like, oh, what are y'all going to have to talk about once the season ends? It won't stop, man. It won't stop.
The season doesn't end. It's an endless content stream coming from college football these days, which is good. They've got their calendar way better than it used to be. It used to be the season's over and it goes dark for a long time.
Yeah. Well, the biggest piece of news for OU football this week is that they have hired a new wide receivers coach. They poached Emmett Jones from Texas Tech. He will be the wide receivers coach and passing game coordinator here at the University of Oklahoma. And when you look at his background, coming from Tech, right, where he was the pass game coordinator and wide receivers coach. Before that, he was the wide receivers coach at KU. And some people may remember he actually took over as the interim head coach before they hired Lance Leipold there in Lawrence. Before that, he was with Tech, again, with Cliff Kingsbury. And before that, he was the head coach at South Oak Cliff High School in Dallas. And before that, he had a bunch of other coaching jobs at the high school level in the DFW area. And Ted, I'm assuming that experience in the DFW area was a big driver to why he was hired here at Oklahoma.
Yeah, you got to imagine, it's a hire that I'm not going to say caught me off guard. I don't know. It wasn't a name that was, someone that I was thinking of or thought was a target that they were going after until way later. But yeah, I think recruiting is always critical. And, if the way I look at it is Joey McGuire kept him on, and had him coach the wide receivers. And if Joey McGuire, as good as he is recruiting the state of Texas, if he signs off on you as a recruiter to be there, then I think that tells me quite a bit. Those recruiting connections in Texas high school, I mean, that seems to be kind of the growing trend, doesn't it? Is hiring ex-high school Texas football coaches on your staff. I mean, obviously, McGuire's done that at Tech. Matt Rule kind of started that with hiring the Joey McGuire there at Baylor, and I think it's kind of starting to catch on a little bit.
Yeah, and it makes a lot of sense. Anyone that knows anything about that Texas High School Football Association, like, for lack of a better term, let's call it a club. I'm not going to call it a cult. I'm going to call it a club. But it's tight-knit and it's meaningful, man. It is really, really meaningful in that state. So
it's like a casting agency for college football players.
Exactly. It is. And I think that's why when you look at the statements that Brent Venables had in the official release, like the thing that really stood out to me, and he said all kinds of great things about Emmett Jones's ability to coach, his ability to build relationships, like his passion for winning, like all that stuff. But the quote that stood out to me was, he's a coaching giant in Texas high school football. I don't think there's any doubt that Emmett Jones can coach, but this feels like it's all about Cruton. And we've talked a lot about the need for Oklahoma to upgrade the talent on the roster. And if Emmett Jones can coach wide receivers at a high level, which I expect him to be able to do, but if he can be your ace recruiter there in the state of Texas, that's worth its weight in gold, man. And let's be real. I think LaDamian Washington did a really good job, and he was an absolute pleasure to work with. We had him on Coach's Corner multiple times. I hope BV is able to keep him. I think he's going to be a great coach down the line. I really do. But you lost Cale Gundy, who was your ace recruiter, right, in that whole unfortunate situation. And now I assume you're anticipating Emmett Jones to step in and kind of fill that void of being like the go-to guy there in the state of Texas. So with those relationships, you're really hoping that ends up being fruitful in the DFW area when it comes to recruiting.
Yeah, it needs to be. And you're right. Cale Gundy, the amount of names that you can attach to him of players that ended up coming to Oklahoma, whether it was whenever he was recruiting a running back, recruiting a wide receiver, one of the best, like, since he started at recruiting. And, also a great talent developer, just a great all-around coach, passing game, protection schemes, really well-versed with all that he's done there. So it really was a big hole to fill. So this is a big-time hire, and we'll see. Things are cyclical, and at times for a long time I felt like, we may worry about a lot of things at Oklahoma, but receiver is not ever going to be one of them. And then we kind of find ourselves in a spot right now where it's like, hey, we don't have very much returning production coming back. We got a lot of potential, right? There's a lot of potential there, but something's got to happen. So, he's stepping into, like, a lot of coaches would kill to be able to step into the room that he's got, right, talent wise. But there's going to be some pressure there for those guys to perform.
And there's going to be some pressure on Emmett Jones to develop those guys. But, like, he needs to be the guy that takes Jalil Farouk to another level. He needs to be the guy that helps Nick Anderson, Jaden Gibson figure it out. Like, push them to figure it out. And whatever. And I've not met Emmett Jones. Talked to some people there at Tech yesterday. They had nothing but incredible things to say about him, other than they were upset he was leaving. But I'm interested to see, when we're able to get out there for a couple spring practices, like what his style is, what his approach is. There's no perfect style of coaching, but he's going to have to do whatever he's going to have to do to get the most out of that group. Because you're right, the production, there's just not a lot coming back. But the talent, there's no doubt. They've got size, they've got speed, they've got talent, right? But it's going to be on him to get the most out of that group. And I don't know if LaDamian Washington was getting the most out of that guy. Like, that's up for LaDamian Washington and those players to know, right? But all I know is the guy that had double the yards of everyone else in that room is moving on, to Marvin Mims. So somebody, and it's got to be multiple people, have to fill that void, have to replace that production. And clearly a lot of that depends on Dylan Gabriel and the way he plays at quarterback and how the offensive line protects it, all that stuff, how you run the football, all of it's connected. But it also is going to be really dependent on how Emmett Jones develops that room.
No doubt. No doubt. You're right. Everything is always connected in football. The way you run the ball, the block, the way you protect, accuracy from quarterback, vision at quarterback, throwing the ball to the right place. But, sometimes it just comes down to flat out, can you win your one-on-one battles? Especially when it comes to some man-to-man stuff like we saw down the stretch of the season. And like that's what we've got to have. We got to have guys that can go out and win their one-on-ones, and we'll see. Again, talent is all there. Measurables are there. They're even supplementing some talent to come in and help, maybe to push some guys a little bit, maybe some more coming as well. So it's always super competitive at wide receiver, no matter where you are to get on the field. And right now, you got to feel pretty strong about Jalil Farouk coming back to be one of the top, maybe the guy, but I think it's totally up into the air. I don't know if you had to pick who the top 3 leading receivers were next year, it'd be difficult to do it. Now, you could probably come up with some names where you hoped it was these 3, and if it's those 3, things probably look pretty good. But right now, I don't know.
Yeah, it's like, hey, is Stogner going to be a 600, 700-yard guy?
Perhaps.
Right. Willis was short of 600 this season. And he was the second leading receiver on the team.
Led in touchdowns, right?
Yeah,
7.
and Lebby majors in 11 personnel. So who's going to fill that void with Braden Willis moving on? I know that's not the wide receiver room, but we're talking the pass game in general, like in its totality. So there are question marks. And Emmett Jones is going to have to hit the ground running and address all of that and get some guys to the level they need to be at before this season rolls around. And it's not easy.
No, it's not. The other thing is, I'll be interested to see what impact he has on the passing game, because he's also labeled as passing game coordinator. But, we all know that sometimes these are it's a label for, to get you another bump in pay, right? If we can bring in as a receiver coach, well, that's not enough money. Well, let's see if we can make you the pass game coordinator. We give you a bump here. Like sometimes that's how it works. It's like being executive VP at a company, right? They just slap something on the old tag. But if he is going to have an influence on the passing game, and that is one of the reasons they brought him, is maybe there's some things that they liked about the Tech passing game, which really caught some fire late in the season. And maybe they're wanting to implement some of those traits. I don't know. That's something to watch as well.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting when you looked at the statement that Emmett Jones had in the official release. It was, he wants to win championships. He knows what the OU brand's all about. I get that. But the thing that stood out to me was what he said about working with Lebby. And that made me wonder, right, with how connected Lebby is in the Texas high school football scene. I wonder if there was a relationship there, and Lebby was one of the guys that was really vouching for Jones. I don't know, but I thought it was interesting that he called out Lebby in general. Is like, hey, I really like what he's doing. I'm interested to learn more, and it's always valuable to combine concepts, and to get some new, fresh ideas when it comes to the passing game. And hey, maybe Emmett Jones, he can say, hey, guys, I've got some good stuff in the intermediate passing game. I think we can add it. I think we can add some mid-level throws. And that is something that you and I, we talked quite a bit about throughout the season. So we'll see. But just the reaction of some of the Tech people I know, and some of them are coaches on that staff that were like, hey, you're getting a good one. Just from the statements that BV put out, like it seems like this is a really good hire. I'm hopeful they can hold on to LaDamian Washington. And, BV in that statement, he said, hey, we're fighting like heck to keep him, which, when BV says something, he's a very persuasive man. So we'll see if they're able to hold on to him. I think that would be big because the players love him. Yeah. And you've seen it on social media. All these guys throughout the season, when I talked to him about LaDamian Washington, were just extremely complimentary about his approach, not only as a coach, but kind of as, someone they can bounce stuff other than football off of, which I think is important. But we'll see. But seems like we should be pretty excited about how this whole thing unfolded.
Yeah, no, I'm excited, and you could take them for what they're worth, but there's I guess, it's the social media thing, right? But I guess there's also been some rumors floated out there that, perhaps some other players may try and follow him and jump into the portal. But I guess you never know how some of that stuff is going to unfold. We'll see. But the wide receiver room is going to be that's one of the spots of focus throughout spring. And I know, like, as we dial it in, we'll hit every single position group and probably every player. But whenever you step back and look at the whole thing as a whole right now, that's one of the spots where we're kind of anxious to see who emerges.
No doubt. All right, let's move on to some of the other roster stuff. This one, I don't know if I was surprised. I was a little confused. David Ugwoegbu has entered the transfer portal. And I'll tell you straight up, I don't think this is a good thing for the roster. Now, do you have guys that are more talented, right? That can run faster? They can maybe diagnose a little quicker? Probably, right? But just being around the team this season, it was clear David Ugwoegbu was the leader on that defense. And it is vocal and emotional. That's as Stutzman is, like, every time I talk to coaches and players, like, they always brought up Ugwoegbu. So good leader on and off the field. I was told, throughout spring, throughout summer workouts, throughout training camp, like, he was the guy that was setting the standard, setting the tone for the defense. Teammates respect the hell out of him. Guy was voted a captain. I mean, you want to have as many of those types of guys on your team as possible. So I saw this. I mean, what's going on, Ted? Because it seems like David Ugwoegbu, if he's going to play another college season, we'd want him to be playing at the University of Oklahoma.
Yeah. Yeah. I think so. And, I know that he was, he really got a lot from the last season. He was happy to be a part of it. And it's not like this is not a bad blood type of transfer portal thing. I don't think it's that at all. I think that every now and then just a change of pace can be good. Could be good for he can start at a bunch of places. But here's the thing. I don't know necessarily that he would have started at Oklahoma next season, and if you're a guy that has played a bunch of football, you've started a bunch of football, you're 6'5" Mike backer coming from Oklahoma, you're probably going to have some really good options out there in the transfer portal. So I'm excited for him. I think he's definitely going to land on his feet and have some success somewhere. But I think you're right whenever you talk about the leadership aspect. I always watch the backers to see who's the guy in that group, and there's no doubt that he was the guy. He ran the drills. He was the voice. He's the one that everyone followed. So, you lose those guys from time to time, and it leaves a void for someone else to step into. Maybe that's Stutzman. Maybe that's, one of the younger guys. I don't know. We'll just have to see how it plays out. But that leadership quality is going to be missed. I do think that we will be better at Mike backer than we were this year. But I'll say this. I think that would have been the case also if Ugwoegbu stayed. I think that he obviously would have improved another year under his belt, second year in the defense, would have helped him out a lot. But some of his qualities for sure, somebody's going to have to step up and take hold of those.
Who do you mentioned that and it's crazy, spring ball's only a couple months away. We'll get into some discussions about that position group, but who do you think fills that position, right, at Mike backer? Like, do you think he kicks Stutzman from Will to Mike, or what do you think that looks like?
I think that it makes me feel like Deshaun McCullough is probably going to play some Mike backer. The way they play Mike, the Mike is actually bumped out of the box more than the will backer is. So a lot of times you'll have the Mike is always the guy that's displaced over the number 3 receiver. So you can have McCullough out there. He's got great length in the passing game. A lot of stuff they do, like whenever they get into that bare front in 11 personnel, the Mike backer is up on the edge and could be the edge rusher. So I think that plays right in for Deshaun McCullough. I don't know. I haven't had the conversation, and I don't know that the coaches know where they're going to play him. But I with Aguebu hitting the transfer portal, it tells me there's a pretty strong chance that we may see Deshaun McCullough playing some Mike backer, at least, at some point in some packages. But
That's interesting.
I think it's going to be an open competition. I think there's, it seems like there was a lot of ground made up by the younger guys over the last, month and a half of the season. Kobe McKenzie's name started to pop up as a guy that's made a lot of headway. Obviously, Kanik, we all know about him. Kip Lewis as well. And they're bringing in some dudes now, some guys that are, it's going to take them a little while to acclimate, but there's some guys that are going to push that position. And we should get Shane Witter back at some point, who had to miss the season because of a shoulder. So I think that room's going to be competitive. And I think there's a really strong chance that we're quite a bit better across the board at backer.
All right. I'll take your word for it. I just didn't like seeing it, right? You
No, I know. I
lose one of your captains to the portal. That's typically not what you want. All right. Other portal stuff. Michigan transfer wide receiver Andrel Anthony has committed to Oklahoma, chose OU over Miami, A&M, Penn State, and Notre Dame. This is a guy that has not been a productive player at Michigan, but when you look at the size, 6'2", 190, that checks the box you want it to check. And then his highlights, like you see the glimpses.
He's
right?
got some wheels now.
He's got some juice, but the thing about it is like, okay, and I know that Michigan's quarterback situation has not been elite over the last couple of seasons. I understand that. But when you see some of those highlights, you see him catch, what was it, the drag against Michigan State and just take it to the house.
Yeah.
You're like, why is that guy not more, like, why does he not have more production? It kind of sets that alarm bell off, but clearly you can see the size, the talent. Now it's up to Jeff Levy and Emmett Jones to get the most out of this guy, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. And, the other thing is their evaluation obviously was the same as a lot of other people's, because it's not like you were beating Wyoming and Idaho out to get him in. Like the list of schools that were making offers and trying to get him to come play for him is pretty good. It's the company you really want to be in. I think he's had maybe some injury issues, which kind of led to the lack of production. And, obviously their offense is a little bit different, but yeah, I mean, there's questions there, right? How can you have that size and that type of explosiveness and top end speed and not have more production where you're at? We'll see. Hopefully there's no problem areas and he can come in and compete right away. I know this right now. We don't have a lot of 6'2" burners on the roster right now. So he's going to have some opportunity.
Yeah. It never hurts to add 6'2" guys that can run at wide receiver.
Nope.
Now we'll see how quickly he can digest Levy's offense. We'll see how quickly he can develop chemistry with Dylan Gabriel, but this is the way I see it. I'd rather have him than not.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. You're adding talent to the room, right? And we'll see. I don't know. I've got a good feeling about it. The burst, the explosiveness. It's been a while since we've seen a guy separate like what I saw in that Michigan State clip. It's like,
yeah,
if we get that guy, then I feel really good about it.
It's like I saw that clip and I remember that play even, but it was one of those where I was like, okay, why is this guy not like a 700, 800-yard receiver for Michigan, you know? And I know they lean on the run game. I get it. And I know that J.J. McCarthy, maybe not the most polished passer, but when you got talent like that, I don't know, it made me skeptical when I watched some of those clips of him just having, fantastic individual efforts. And then I looked at his stats. I was like, this doesn't add up here. You know what I mean? It made me wonder what the heck was going on there.
Yeah. I guess it's all worth it if you get like a handful of those plays, right? Hey, you give us a couple of those in the right moment, then it's all worth it. So yeah, I'm optimistic about it. That Michigan State, if you guys haven't seen it, it looks like whenever they hand the baton to the fourth leg and there's someone that is like clearly faster than everyone and he comes from out of the pack and just is gone. It's impressive.
Yeah. So we'll see what he ends up being for the Sooners, but appears to be a very talented player. Okay. Other portal additions: Wake Forest transfer defensive lineman Rondell Bothroyd.
Yeah.
Bothroyd.
Yeah.
That's what we're going with. Has committed to Oklahoma. He's one of the top edge guys in the portal. Has good size, 6'4", 260 pounds. You look at his career stats: 16 and a half sacks, 4 forced fumbles, bunch of TFLs. But I think there are two things that are really exciting about him. Number one, he is old as shit. It's his sixth year of college football. We've talked about being mature and old, just having that grown man strength at the line of scrimmage. I mean, this dude's old. That's good. And then the second exciting thing, looking at all the pictures, all the clips at Wake Forest from this season for him, guy had a C on his chest. Captain at Wake Forest and old. And this has become a theme for Brent Venables and this staff with these portal additions. Like, they want guys that were captains at their previous school. And it seems like adding a veteran guy that has been in a leadership role, has played a ton of football, like, it's a very positive thing for that edge room.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. He's got some good size to him, and he's going to be stepping in and by far the most productive defensive line player that we've got. I mean, there's no one that comes even anywhere close to those type of numbers that he's bringing in. So I'm excited about it. Like, there's starting to be some good depth on the edge with Bothroyd, with Trace Ford coming in. R. Mason Thomas is going to be a big player at that spot. Obviously the guys that we had from a year ago with Reggie Grimes and Ethan Downs, and I think you even got to factor in the true freshman coming in. He's starting to appear to be like one of those guys that you're going to say, okay, yeah, he's going to play some as a true freshman for sure. So the edge looks like we're shoring up that position quite a bit. Because flat out, we talked about this. We've got to get better on the edges. Got to, in both the pass game and the run game.
Have to improve, and that's why you assume they bring Bothroyd. We'll find out soon enough how to say it. That you got to assume that's why they bring him in, to add some experience and some production to that edge room. And this is something I thought about. Like, clearly Venables and Chavis both saw this guy play in the ACC, right? Mm-hmm. So they've had eyes on him. Their offensive staff there at Clemson undoubtedly scouted this guy. Maybe in that team meeting, they were like, hey, we really like this kid. And Venables remembered that once he was in the portal. It was like, hey, this is a guy that we want to add to our football team. So, going back to those Clemson days for Chavis and Venables, I assume that's one of the things that kind of sparked them wanting to bring Bothroyd. I really need to learn how to say that.
I haven't heard anyone else say it yet, so that's why I don't know.
I'll just keep saying both, even though I'm sure it's very annoying.
Bothroyd.
Okay. Bothroyd. I feel like Bothroyd sounds better. Sounds more likely.
Bothroyd. Yeah.
I don't know. All I care about is that he's good at football. We'll learn his name soon enough.
And he is. He is. The edges are looking better.
Yeah, another portal addition. Texas State defensive lineman Davon Sears has committed to OU's, got a couple years of eligibility left. Chose Oklahoma over Tennessee and Penn State, according to the stuff he's put out on Twitter. Look at the size, listed at 6'2", 290. But another one of these guys where I don't know what I'm supposed to think. Like, if he's choosing between Penn State and Tennessee and OU's winning the recruiting battle over those two schools, hell yeah, let's go. But very little production. So I'm a little like, how am I supposed to feel, Ted? What am I supposed to think about this? Because I don't know. Like, the fan base seems excited. You get a recruiting win over those two programs, you should be excited, but guy hasn't really done anything.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's kind of a numbers game, and right now it is very difficult in the portal defensive line market. Anytime you've got a defensive lineman that people feel you know, pretty strongly about, everyone is coming out of the woodwork. So there's such a need at defensive line. It's hard to know, like, how good actually do they think he is, or are they just trying to, you know, supplement the roster? As of right now, I think Sears is someone that you have to consider probably going to be a rotational type of defensive lineman for him, which you have to have, right? You know, perhaps he comes and, you know, things click and the scheme fits him really well and has some good development, strength and conditioning, and through the offseason, and ends up turning into a starter for you and perhaps a star. I think the expectation right now is probably safe, thinking of him as, you know, a guy that's going to play. He's going to be a rotational player, but at this point, it may be a strong statement to say he's going to be a starter or, you know, an all-conference type of player. I don't think that's the case.
I've got no idea. I've got no idea what he's going to be, but this is what I'll say. Like, if you are winning recruiting battles against those types of teams, then you got to feel good about it. And you gotta put your trust in Todd Bates and Brent Venables to develop this guy. Clearly, there's something about the physical tools that he has that got a lot of people excited. Ted, I have acquired the 2019 Wake Forest Media Guide with Pronunciation Guide.
Look at you.
Rondell Bothroyd.
Yes.
Bothroyd.
We got it. We're locked in. No more guessing.
Bahth Royd. Bothroyd, right? That's what we're rolling with.
Yeah. Good.
Okay. Look at us. But yeah,
what a name. That's a good football name.
It's a strong
Rondell
name. Bothroyd. Oh, T-Row's going to have some fun with that one, undoubtedly. But yeah, the defensive line has certainly been addressed via the portal. Sears, Bothroyd, Trace Ford, Jacob Lacey. You mentioned PJ Adebawore. We'll see if Derek LeBlanc is a factor at all, but a lot of new faces along that defensive front.
Yeah. And with Bothroyd, that's going to be a guy that plays a lot of football. Starter, we'll see. Trace Ford, if healthy, that's going to be a guy that plays a lot of football. Starter, we'll see. Jacob Lacey, Sears, couple of rotational guys to go with a guy like Coe, who I think is really starting to come into his own, and he's going to have his best year, and I bet he has a big year next year. And like you mentioned, Adebawore, we'll see. Our Mason Thomas should make some nice strides throughout this offseason. We should be stronger at the defensive line and edge position next season.
Yep. All right.
Experience. That's good. We added a lot of experience.
Added experience, guys that have played a lot of football, which is always a good thing. Okay, we're going to do Call Your Shot in the College Football Roundup. So let's get to birthday shout-outs. Happy first birthday to Everly Joe Hulsey.
Happy 5th birthday to Sophia Noakes.
Happy 30th birthday to Natalie Goyne.
Happy 42nd birthday to Dr. Timothy Noakes.
Happy 43rd birthday to David Blaze.
Happy 43rd birthday to Carla Nina Whitaker.
Happy 43rd birthday to Coach Josh Noakes.
The whole Noakes family. Happy 54th birthday to Matt Thompson.
Happy 72nd birthday to Vicky Richardson.
And happy birthday to Nick Shiver.
Shiver? Nick Shiver. I'm going Shiver.
Yeah.
Let's recap whatever that was on Monday night. But first, the only place to stop when you're road tripping is Love's Travel Stops. Love's has over 600 locations in 41 states, offering 24-hour access to clean and safe places. Whatever your road trip needs are, Love's has it. Fuel, fresh food, all the snacks and drinks, including, yes, my favorite, Java Hamare. The coffee is fantastic. Love's also has you covered if you forget your phone charger or headphones. They've expanded their mobile to-go zone so you can grab any of that stuff there. Make sure you download the Love's Connect app for exclusive offers from today's most popular brands. The Love's Connect app also includes a route planner and store locator. When you see that red neon heart on the highway, stop in and say hi at Love's Travel Stops. For a full list of what Love's has to offer, visit loves.com.
Opolis Clothing is the exclusive home for all of our Oklahoma breakdown merchandise. If you want to live your life in buttery soft comfort, go to opolisclothing.com. That's OPOLIS clothing.com. Use promo code TED, TED, for 10% off your entire order. You still get a discount on all the OU and OKC Thunder gear as well. That's opolisclothing.com. Use promo code TED for 10% off. Buttery soft and 10% off.
One thing about the Opolis stuff, they want to do some more Oklahoma breakdown merchandise.
Yes.
Please tweet us and let us know what you guys want. So you can tweet at me, you can tweet at Ted, you can tweet at the podcast account at OK_breakdown. Let us know what kind of merch you would like, and that way we can let the people at Opolis know.
Awesome. Run number 2. Let's go.
Let's do it, baby. All right. National College Football Roundup. Whoa. 65-7. My goodness. What an epic ass whooping. The biggest margin of victory in a title game. The biggest margin of victory in any bowl game ever. Ted, it was over so quickly. So quickly.
It was brutal. Very quickly. It started really bad for TCU. They had that false start, I think, to start the game off. And it just never got better from that moment on. They did hit on the one deep play and ended up getting that touchdown drive. And I was like, okay, they're going to be able to do that all game. We've got something here, but nope, that was it.
Even that play, I was watching the game with my wife and she was like, oh, that's good. Like, and I was like, it's literally just a busted coverage. Like the only reason, and the thing that stood out about that play to me, Duggan underthrew Davis by like 15 yards.
I know it. Yep.
I mean, and that was the thing for me is, man, I felt for Max Duggan. He'd had such an incredible season. He played his worst game of the year in the national championship game. And of course, Georgia's defense had a lot to do with that. But even the first drive of the game, like there's 2 throws to be made on that first drive of the game. He just misses. And he looked off. He looked rattled. He didn't play well. And they needed him to be special. And he was bad.
Yeah.
He was bad. And it broke my heart for the kid because I think you and I, we love the way he plays. I love how physically he plays the quarterback position. But man, that was not good, not a good performance by the Heisman runner-up. Not good at all.
It wasn't. You mentioned he underthrew on that deep ball. He missed Quentin Johnson, had him on a deep post, and terrible throw gets intercepted. What should have been a massive play in TCU's favor is just a horrible throw and an easy interception. And it was bad. And I think that clearly the timing got to him quickly, and, you know, a much more difficult time being able to escape and get out of the pocket and, you know, outrun some guys around the edges. Just didn't have the ability to do a lot of the things that he had done, to where, you know, he feels like he's got the defense on their heels. Like, they never got over the hump. Like, they were the ones that were in a panic the entire football game.
Yeah, and I think there's that entire game can be summed up in one play in my mind. I mean, you look at, and that was just, I mean, Georgia just kept putting it on them. My God. But I think there's one play that defines that game, and it's early, and it's the Darius Davis speed sweep that he ends up fumbling. Gets it on the jet sweep, inexcusably has the ball in his inside arm. But the reason he's got the ball in his inside arm on that, Ted, is he has never in his life been caught on that play. How many times when we were preparing for the OU TCU game, how many times did we see them run that play on tape and Darius Davis just turns the corner and is running down the sideline?
Yep.
And so he's got the ball in the inside arm, which everyone that carries the football in the history of football knows you're not supposed to do. And he's running thinking, I'm going to turn this corner. Nope. That Georgia safety comes flying downhill, catches him, and takes the football from him. And so I think if you look at that game, like, that's the play that defined the difference between TCU and Georgia. I mean, Georgia was faster, stronger. They were more physical, and they played with greater attention to detail.
Yep.
And I think every one of those points, you can see it in that play.
Well, yes, no doubt. And I think, and this is a somewhat obvious statement, but it's worth mentioning anyways. Georgia probably defensively did less than anyone they played all year. It looked like a super traditional defense, except it looked like they were playing with 12 guys, because everyone was in a really good position at all times, proper leverage, and everyone is so athletic. You don't have to do a lot. If you've got all the guys that are lined up there in the right spot, you can get there with 3 or 4 guys up front. You don't have to do a whole lot. They did a couple of some of the, pressures where they show the double A gap and have one of the guys pop out. Georgia's been doing that. They did that in 2017 whenever we played them in the Rose Bowl.
Listen, that was the thing when I was playing in college. Yeah. I loved, Fowler was like, this trend in college football. I was like, trend? Double A gap pressure's been around since like 2009.
Yeah. It was really big in the NFL before that. And, you know, some of that stuff started coming over. We did it in Jacksonville. Mel Tucker, was the defensive coordinator when I was in Jacksonville, and he went to Georgia. They were doing that stuff in Georgia. But there was some of that. But that is so easy to run. It puts a lot of pressure on a quarterback that's worried about you, right? Whenever he starts to think about the defense and the people getting to him, you see 2 backers, tough in the A gaps, the clock is already starting to move faster before he snapped the ball. So they were just disciplined, athletic, tackled well. They just kind of overwhelm you with guys that are really athletic and they're in the right spot. That's tough to beat.
They made a big deal of the simulated pressure stuff and kind of the elaborate pressure stuff on the broadcast. But the reason that they could do that is they were dominating on first and second down. Mm-hmm. Just winning at the point of attack, playing physical, disciplined defense, right? With superior athletes.
Yep.
So that's why they could get to all that stuff. And then got to give Stetson Bennett his credit, man. How good was he?
Woo.
I mean, the guy, when the lights are brightest, the guy delivers. Now, everything was working for Georgia offensively. I mean, TCU's defense, They just had no answers. I was really surprised they had so many struggles getting lined up. I mean, they see tempo all the time in the Big 12, and they couldn't get lined up.
And they run the 3-3-5 that is lined up the same exact way every single snap typically.
Yeah, that was strange. And Georgia hit some big plays, right? With the sugar huddle, went fast, and TCU, they just busted in the secondary. So that was surprising. That was probably the most surprising thing in the game for me, was that TCU's defense struggled with that as much as they did. But Stetson Bennett was awesome. He operated that offense extremely well. Now, everything in the run game was working, everything in the pass game was working, but he used his legs as a weapon. I'm telling you, man, that dude is faster than people think.
Yeah. He's got some quickness to him. Reminds me a little bit of Chandler Morris. You know, he's got that similar type of frame. I think Chandler Morris is probably even faster than Stetson Bennett, but he's just dangerous enough to where if you forget about him in the run game, he's going to make some big plays on you.
I thought, and a lot of people are like, oh, he's 25 years old and all this stuff. Hey, it is what it is. But I thought he made really good decisions in the passing game. I thought he made quick decisions in the passing game. It's, you can make quick decisions when guys are running wide open. That's not overly complicated. But the one play that stood out to me where I was like, okay, this guy is absolutely dialed in to what the defense is trying to do to him and what they want to do offensively, was when D Winters came off the slot untouched on that traditional slot pressure, and Stetson Bennett knew he was coming, could feel it, baited him, spun out, ran for a first down. Mm-hmm. I was like, damn, this kid, I mean, that's like Aaron Rodgers stuff.
Yep.
Right? Like, I was like, this guy is seeing it so clearly, and he's feeling it. And that was the play where I was like, this game was already over, but TCU doesn't have a chance with the way that this guy is playing. I mean, he was fantastic.
Well, and that's 2 championship games in a row where he's been fantastic. Some of the dimes that he threw in the last national championship were really impressive. That's big time. That's big time for him. And yeah, he's 25, but experience matters, man. The older you can get in college sports, you have such a huge advantage over your competition. There's really no other sport like it, to where you've essentially got boys against men at some position matchups. You're talking about sometimes as young as 18 years old going up against a guy possibly as old as 24, 25 years old. Like, that is a world of difference in just like what your body is prepared to do. So experience matters. And that's why, Venables continues to try and get a little bit older, more experience on defense and just on the football team in general.
Yeah. I felt bad for TCU because it was an amazing season. I mean, that group, Sonny Dykes and those players, they should be extremely proud of the season that they had. I mean, what a fantastic run. But to have it end that way, in that fashion, unfortunately, that's how 2022 is going to be remembered for TCU. Right? When you get embarrassed like that, history is what it is. Like, that's how that team's going to be remembered. Unfortunately, they're not going to be remembered for significantly outplaying that Michigan team.
Yeah.
It's going to be, oh my God, do you remember what happened to him in the title game? That sucks because, man, they were 5-7 a year ago, and under a first-year head coach went to the damn national championship game. First Big 12 team to win a CFP game. And I just, I thought they were going to lose, but man, I wish it wouldn't have been like that. That was brutal.
Yeah, it's brutal because it brings out all of the horrible takes.
Oh, man.
Oh, it's just like instantly, well, they shouldn't have been there. Well, it's clear that Ohio State was the second best team. And it just that type of stuff drives me insane. Whatever. Yeah, they deserve to be there. They whipped an undefeated Michigan team that was really good and had pounded Ohio State in their house. Absolutely deserved to be there. But it wasn't, I mean, at the end of it, and I think I saw you tweet it out, like the championship rings are or the rings for this season are gonna look odd for TCU.
I think you just have to go with Fiesta Bowl champs. Right?
Right.
You can't, because what, Big 12 runner up and national runner up.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what a weird way for their season. They end up losing 2 out of their last 3. Yep. And you're like, this is a historically great season for the program. You didn't win your conference. So I think you just got to go Fiesta Bowl champs on there, right? That's what you have to do.
Probably good to do that. But yeah, I don't think it was not a good result. It's not indicative of what type of football team TCU is. I think Georgia's clearly a better team than TCU, but they're not 65-7 better, right?
Yeah.
They just, it was just it snowballed on them.
I think I want to make something very clear. I don't think anyone was beating that version of Georgia on Monday night.
Right. Yeah.
Not Bama, not Ohio State. I think they win by 2 or 3 scores against anybody. But yeah, it shouldn't have been that bad. Like, it was, you're right. It snowballed on them. And I saw some people debating this, saw some TCU fans talking about it. It's like, well, I'd rather lose like that than to lose in like a heartbreaking fashion. What? No. Give me the heartbreaking loss by a field goal at the end of the game. Give me what happened to Ohio State against Georgia, as opposed to what TCU just went through against Georgia. Because no, like, people that are saying that are insane. Like, give me the heartbreaking loss that haunts me for the rest of my life. I do not. Don't give me that embarrassment, man. There's no way. I don't know how people can say that. That's ridiculous to say.
Well, I think it's ridiculous for everyone to say, except for, say, like, the kicker for Ohio State is like, I'd rather lose 65-7 than lose in heartbreaking fashion.
Yeah, that's it. Fair point.
There's a handful of people to where that's not the case, but generally speaking, yes, I think you were right.
And just kind of the last thought on the game, as it pertains to Oklahoma football, as I was sitting and watching Georgia go up and down the field, I was more convinced than ever that OU going to the SEC is the correct decision. And that the only way OU is going to have a chance moving forward of winning a title, especially in an expanded college football playoff era, the only way they're going to be able to win a title in that system is to be in the SEC and compete against that type of talent, and to stack recruiting classes and be able to say, hey, we're in the SEC, best conference in all of college football, to use that on the recruiting trail to get bigger, faster, stronger across the board. I mean, just because if you're going to play, and you're not playing Georgia every week, I understand that, but the standard at OU is to go and compete for national championships. And we all watched the OU TCU game, right? And there was a gap between OU and TCU. And I know Dylan Gabriel got hurt, but there was a gap. And you saw what TCU looked like against Georgia. So there's a lot of ground to make up, man. And I think the SEC move is essential if Oklahoma football wants to truly be on an elite level in the sport.
Yep. No, I agree. And they need to be prepared, and they need to strike while the iron's hot whenever they do eventually make that move, because I think there's going to be a boost in recruiting that comes with going to the SEC. And if you can capitalize on that, take advantage of it, I think it could propel Oklahoma to some really nice heights. But if you don't and you struggle, you could fall into a bad spot pretty quickly. There's been really good programs in the SEC that have fallen into tough spots that took them, as far as like recruiting cycles, generations of coaching tenures and recruiting cycles to try and pop out of. Like Tennessee just now is getting their head above water. Florida, I don't think Florida still hasn't had their head above water for any consistent amount of time after the Urban Meyer situation. So it's a difficult conference that if you don't take advantage of some opportunities you have early, you could just kind of float around in the middle forever.
Right. I'm going to throw and I would say we are not, no one would consider us hot take guys, right? I'm going to throw this out there and see what you think. Mm-hmm. As I watch TCU get destroyed, this thought popped into my head. And you and I, we have talked about how much we love the Big 12 Conference. We've got Big 12 championship rings. Those rings are never going to say SEC champs, ever. Part of me thinks that, especially expanded playoff, OU and Texas move on. I think it's very possible the Big 12 team never wins a national title again.
Yeah. Well, it's going to be very it would have changed. I think I probably would have said the same thing, but I would have been way more hesitant had TCU not just like they didn't have to win that game. If it would have been a really tight game that looked like TCU had opportunities to win it and came up short, like even that could have convinced me maybe that TCU could really build on some momentum here and carry this through and see what happens. But I tend to agree. And even if it was to happen, it would just have to occur with all of the stars aligning perfectly. Several schools down, maybe like a massive upset happens and like the number one team goes down in a 12-team playoff against an opponent that they're a huge favorite. Like you would have to have some stuff like that occur, right?
Yeah, but then like you look at what the Big 12 is going to look like once OU and Texas leave, right? TCU, I think a lot of people believe is positioned to be the dominant force in the conference. A lot of people have talked about Houston, right? But think of who those two schools are recruiting against. Guys are, and listen, I love the Big 12, but the best players in the state of Texas, they're not going to choose TCU and Houston over Texas, Oklahoma, Texas A&M, Bama, LSU. Like, it's just not going to happen, man. I don't think UCF all of a sudden is going to start pulling in recruits over Florida and Florida State and Miami. Like, I don't see it. You know what I mean? Like, I just
chip away. They would have to chip away at that over an extended amount of time with like super, super high level, consistent football. Like out of a 8-year span, they make the college football playoff like 6 out of the 8 years. Like,
yeah,
that's how you would ever be able to really start to chip away at any of the like the Florida based recruiting stuff.
And maybe, and I know a lot of people think, hey, Joe McGuire at Texas Tech, he's going to get a ton of talent, but are a bunch of kids going to choose Lubbock over Austin and College Station and Norman? Like, I just, you know what I mean? I just don't see with what it's going to take to win a college football playoff and a 12-team playoff. I just don't think a Big 12 team in the new Big 12, once OU and Texas move on, I just don't think a Big 12 team is going to be able to stack enough talent year after year after year to win a national title. I just think it's going to be way too difficult.
Well, I will say this, like the one hope that they have is the possibility, the real possibility that a 12-team playoff starts to spread the talent out a little bit more. You know, I think the 14 playoff has, I think one of the unintended consequences is the concentration of players going to the schools that have been able to make it every year, like early on. Like since this thing started, like the teams that were the best early on, whenever the playoffs started, really capitalize on moving to that format, right? Where they get all of the attention, all of the talk, the media focus is all right there on those teams. I think the 12-team playoff has a chance to spread some of that out, but it will take a really long time. It's a slow moving car. I mean, Georgia has, 5 recruiting classes that have all been either number 1, number 2, or number 3. All of those guys are sitting there on campus. Like it takes a long time for people to start to chip away at that and be able to get your roster anywhere close. I mean, it takes years of high level, consistent recruiting, and it will take years under a 12-team playoff for, I think, some of the talent to spread out on the curve a little bit.
Yeah, the geographic disadvantage for the teams in the new Big 12.
It's gonna be tough.
I want the Big 12.
Be a great conference.
I think it's going to be the most entertaining, the most fun, and the most competitive conference in all of college football to watch when it goes to those 12 teams. I really do. I think it's going to be incredibly entertaining. I don't think one of those teams is going to be able to go through a college football playoff where they got to beat, let's say they got to beat Ohio State in round 1. Then they got to beat Bama. Then they got to beat Georgia. I just don't see it, man.
Better be trying to get a bye. Yeah, it's going to be tough.
Yeah.
It's, and that, honestly, though, that goes for every conference.
I would say everyone but like Ohio State, right? Like, because Ohio State, now we'll see what USC and Oregon end up doing out there. And USC going to the Big Ten, I think it's going to be really interesting to see how that affects their recruiting and what their roster makeup looks like. But yeah, the SEC has dominated college football, man. And it's very true. It's very possible that we get to a 12-team playoff, you're seeing 2, maybe 3 teams in the Final Four in college football from the SEC each year. Like, it's possible.
Yeah.
Hopefully Oklahoma's part of it, man. Lot.
And if anyone wants to have any type of, like, teams have to start, and I know it's a huge ask and it's a tough ask, but teams are going to have to start beating them. I mean, that's the only way that you change it, is teams are going to have to start beating them when they have their opportunity. Ohio State, like, I hear everyone talking about how great that Georgia team was, and they were. That Georgia team was fantastic. But Ohio State, they're beat. They're dead to rights. Like, everyone on the sidelines in tears, they're crying. It's over. And they missed the field goal. Like, if college football wants to catch up to that conference, you can't miss those field goals. Like, you got to be able to beat them whenever you have your chance.
No, I completely agree. It's my hope that OU's in this mix, baby, moving forward. That's, I mean, let's be real. That's what we really care about.
Yeah.
Oh, it's just, yeah, it dawned, that thought of, like, the Big 12 not really having a team that is going to be able to truly compete kind of dawned on me. I would say about early second quarter of that football game, where I was like, oh man,
yeah,
this could be really difficult. So we'll see. I'm not trying to be depressing when it comes to the future of the Big 12. I'm just trying to be realistic.
It's realistic. Man. I think everyone sees that.
Yeah. All right. Let's get to call your shot. We saved it for this portion because we asked you guys, how did UGA's destruction of TCU make you feel about OU's move to the SEC? And Mark Crenshaw chimed in. He said, Georgia has back-to-back national championships because they stack talent class after class. When Coach Venables and the staff are able to do that, the product on the field will take care of itself. We're not where we need to be, and we're not where we're gonna be. #Boomer.
Yeah.
I think that's a pretty fair assessment from Mark.
Well said. I think that this is going to be a big developmental year. Last year was transitional. This is going to be developmental. I think that's going to help them. Obviously, we'll see what it turns out to be. But as you look at it right now, a really, really promising recruiting class, and they've got some really, really promising recruiting prospects for the next 24 class that's coming through, and specifically on the defensive line. So you got to continue to do really well in recruiting. You got to do well in the transfer portal, because we aren't going to be Georgia, at least not for a long time, to get our roster to where it's comparable to theirs. So in the meantime, what do you got to do? You got to supplement with some transfer portal guys at, some positions of need year in, year out. And those needs will probably change around a little bit, but that's the one place that you can continue to try and keep pace, is by adding more experienced talent on the top end, while bringing in some really good young recruiting classes and developing those guys.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And this last one comes from Ethan Price, who says, I never felt good about OU's chances against Georgia or Bama right now, especially this year. But at the end of the day, I feel like going to that conference and going against that physical of competition week after week will serve us better in the long term than Big 12. I don't think anyone would argue that.
I totally agree. And, there is, they have the, everyone expects the SEC to play much better defense, right? And whenever I think everyone has that mentality, and it's talked about, and the drum is constantly pounded, I think they call the games differently. I think they let them play on the perimeter a little bit more. There's definitely more talent there, but the pace of play, the style of play alone helps you play better defense, if that makes sense. Now, Obviously, the teams that have really good offense, they put up big numbers, and they're going to go fast, and they're going to dial up, big passing plays and running plays. The good offenses there are really good too, but it's just a little bit different style that I think will help you play some more solid defense.
And kind of to tie that into recruiting, you and I, we've been trying to tell people, hey, Big 12 it's a good brand of football. They're playing defense in the conference now. It's not just, air raid all over the place, everyone throwing it around. We've been trying to fight that reputation for years, right?
Mm-hmm.
TCU did not help things on Monday night.
No.
Every SEC coach that's in a recruiting battle with a Big 12 school is going to say, hey, you watch that game, right? Like, that's the difference.
Yeah.
So
and it's the same thing. Like, I like the 3-3-5 defense. I think that it's smart for a lot of people to run it, but you don't see it at the next level, at least not consistently. Like, teams may run some concepts off of it, but that's what you're saying. It's like, if you run a 3-3-5, if you're a defensive lineman, you get paid to get to the quarterback. Like, that's how you get drafted high. That's how you make money in the NFL, by getting to the quarterback. It's hard to get to the quarterback whenever you're lined up head up on guys and there's only 3 down. It's not the scheme that you want to try and get drafted high on the defensive line. And that's going to be used against the Big 12 teams.
No doubt about it. All right, let's finish up with our winners and losers of the week. But first,
Bishop McGuinness Catholic High School represents a tradition of educational excellence in Oklahoma City. Grounded in a faith-based education, students prepare to meet their potential with an individualized academic path that strives for success. Bishop McGuinness offers a college prep curriculum that includes 22 AP courses, participation in OSS AA athletics, where they've won over 100 state championships, and numerous clubs and organizations for students to join and grow. If you want to provide the best possible educational and spiritual development for your children, contact Bishop McGuinness Catholic High School or visit bmchs.org financial aid is available.
And attention, business owners, you need Insurica in your life. Insurica is one of the country's largest insurance brokers with 30 offices throughout Oklahoma, Texas, and the Southwest. Insurica is able to customize programs by accessing the latest information from many insurance carriers. They compare and contrast coverage offerings and pricing in order to design a cost-effective, comprehensive program to meet your business's specific needs. Insurica's clients become best-in-class businesses by working with Insurica's team of advisors to manage risk. Purchasing insurance is only one way to protect your business. Best-in-class businesses win by avoiding a loss in the first place. If your business partners with Insurica, you'll save huge amounts of money and take back control of your total cost of risk. I'm an Insurica client, and you should be too. If your business wants to be best in class, connect with Insurica at Insurica.com. That's INSURICA.com. As always, Ted, kick us off. Who do you have as your winner of the week?
Man, they needed a win. They needed one bad, and I think they may have got one. Oklahoma State, Alan Bowman on the transfer portal trail. Yeah, he's still playing. He's coming from Michigan. He has kind of taken a weird route in college football. Looked so promising at Texas Tech. Had the big injury, the collapsed lung. Was hard for him to come back from that. Almost had Kyler Murray beat had he been able to come back in that game the way he was playing. And, it was weird for him. End up transferring out, going to Michigan. We know their quarterback situation now. So coming to Oklahoma State, I think that, considering all that has happened, this has to be a win for Oklahoma State, bringing in a guy like that. I think he's got a high ceiling.
I love your optimism. I love your optimism. And, our good friends in Stillwater, right? They've been reeling, man. It's been a tough scene for Mike Gundy with the players that they're losing in the portal. But does Alan Bowman really move the needle? Man, like, the guy hasn't played in a long time. Like, he couldn't get on the field. Remember last year when Michigan was really struggling at quarterback with McNamara, with, McCarthy, like, Alan Bowman didn't sniff the field for Michigan. So while I appreciate your positivity, and I know you're trying to, because there are some Oklahoma State fans that hate listen to this podcast, I just don't know how excited Oklahoma State fans are about this. Like, the guy hasn't played in forever. It's a name they know, which is good. Right. And when he was playing at his best at Tech, like, he did some really good things, had some big games. But if you're talking about losing Spencer Sanders and bringing in Alan Bowman, that is not a net positive, my friend.
Not a net positive. Not at all. But
Rangel or Gundy. Yes. Yeah. Okay. Fair enough.
I think it's a positive on that end. And the mojo's gone bad in Oklahoma State right now. So it doesn't seem like there's a whole lot of excitement out there in the portal about how are you going to convince a quarterback to come in whenever pretty much your entire receiving core is gone? It's a tough ask. All of those things considered, there's a chance that if they get good Bowman, this is going to be it's not going to be an upgrade on Spencer Sanders, but that ain't happening. That ain't that's the only way that's going to happen, I think, is going to be through the recruiting trail and development.
Which, and Oklahoma State has developed well for years, right? The recruiting trail, the portal situation, Mike Gundy, I don't know how interested he is in any of that stuff anymore.
Yeah.
And I know that, for years he said, no, we go after specific types of guys that want to be in Stillwater. And I get that. But you mentioned the wide receiver core and it being tough to get a quarterback to come play there right now via the portal. Do you think Alan Bowman watched Oklahoma State's offensive line at all from this season? I'm not sure he knows what he's signing himself up for.
Yeah.
Those lungs, he better watch those lungs.
Double up on the flak jacket.
Yeah, he's going to be looking thick.
gonna look like Cam Rising out there.
Exactly. Cam Rising, which, by the way, back at Utah, that's huge for Kyle
Huge.
Whittingham.
That is
That's awesome.
huge. Yeah.
College football's better with Cam Rising. I love watching that dude.
I'm the same way. Yeah. So sorry, Oklahoma State, but I tried to give you a win. Gabe squashed it.
I'm sorry. I'm just being realistic, man.
No, that's true.
All right. Who do you have as your loser of the week?
OU men's hoops.
Damn it. So close.
So close.
How much are we going to complain about the officiating? We need to be on the same page here because it is what it is in Allen Fieldhouse. We all know that. But I will say, as I watched the last 5 minutes, remember, you got a 10-point lead with 5 minutes to go. I thought the officiating was very clean in the last 5 minutes. Mm-hmm. I had if any, I'm trying to think if I had any complaints. I don't think I did. I think they puckered up. Kansas turned up the intensity defensively. It got loud. They felt the pressure, right? The old saying, makes diamonds or burst pipes. That's what bursting pipes looks like on a basketball floor, unfortunately.
It's brutal, man. And as soon as they came out of that timeout and ran a play and got that big dunk, Kansas did, is like, oh boy, that lit the crowd up. I mean, Bill Self knew what he was doing. Like, they're trying to dial up something to generate some intensity there. Got a big time dunk. That place erupted, and I was like, my son came in. I was trying to explain to him how long it's been since we've beat them in Kansas, and he's like, "But we're winning." I was like, "I know we're winning, son, but this has happened 20 times. All right, we're up, we're close, whatever, and they find a way at home. They find a way, or the officials find a way. And last night, I think Kansas found a way.
The officials aided in especially in the first half, but I will say, or early in the second half, but I mean, Kansas is good. Like, when you have the chance, you got to go score. And that was the thing. Kansas cranked up the defensive intensity, and the Sooners didn't handle it well. Mm-mm. Right? You could tell they couldn't get to the basket, couldn't get good shots, couldn't hit shots.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's simple. It's make or miss, man. And I know a lot of people want to complain. Well, hey, Kansas shot 39 free throws. OU only shot 23. You also have to acknowledge that OU, for the most part, doesn't have a bunch of dynamic athletes that can get to the rim and force foul calls.
Yep.
And that's part of it. It's all part of it. But for them to be looking as good as they looked 5 minutes ago, and we were all saying the same thing, like, for the love of God, please hold on. Make this streak in, please. And I feel like OU basketball fans are battered.
I know.
We were all like, oh no, it's happening. And then,
yeah, it's like the collected trauma over the years of playing at Fog Allen. Basically, like, the entire Sooner fan base willed us to a loss there.
That's what it felt like.
By knowing what was coming, right? It's like we all willed it to happen.
I thought Sherfield was great, man.
Yeah.
And this is part of it as well. You want to beat the number 2 team country in the hardest venue to play in all of college basketball? You got to shoot better than 2 of 17 from 3.
That's it.
I mean, we can complain about the officials all we want, but the game was there to be won. They defended so well. Like, you could just tell Kansas was so uncomfortable for so long, but they let the ghosts of the fog get to them in the last 5 minutes, man. That thing snowballed quick. My goodness.
Tough. Yep. Got loud. The fans knew it. We knew it. Couldn't stop the freight train.
1993, man.
Whew.
I was 3.
I was trying to explain to my son how long. I was like, it's been since 1993 since we won there, and we play there every single year. Yeah, it's crazy.
Maybe next year.
Yes, next year.
Positivity, Ted. Here we go.
That's it.
All right, let's get to my winner and loser. But first,
First Fidelity Bank is a full-service financial institution based in Oklahoma with tailored solutions for all your personal and business needs. Checking accounts, saving accounts, home loans, and much more. They do it all, whether it's online banking from your computer or mobile banking from your phone. Everything is stress-free with FFB. Making mobile deposits, paying bills online, and moving money to different accounts could not be easier. First Fidelity Bank provides free ATMs worldwide, making banking convenient wherever you are. They also give back to the community. FFB donates a total of more than $500,000 to local charities and educational foundations. Make your life easier and go bank with First Fidelity Bank. Visit ffb.com for more information.
And if you are a whiskey or bourbon drinker, stop what you're doing. Head to your favorite liquor store and buy some Balcones products. You got to grab some of Balcones Lineage single malt whiskey. It was voted one of the top 20 whiskeys in the world by Whiskey Advocate, and you'll be shocked by how affordable it is. Also, you got to snag some of Balcones Baby Blue Corn whiskey.
It's made from blue corn. That's the fancy corn.
And that is why it has won more than 25 awards. Last but certainly not least, you got to buy some of Balcones Pot Still Bourbon. Its big flavors make it the perfect bourbon to drink year-round. Remember, Balcones Single Malt won the Best in Glass competition back in 2012, beating brands like Johnny Walker and Macallan. This stuff is the real deal, people. If you love great whiskey and bourbon at a great price, then Balcones products are the only way to go. The whiskey may be made in Texas, but the owners are from Oklahoma. To find a liquor store that has it, visit balconesdistilling.com. All right, for my winner of the week, thought about going with every team in the Eastern Conference in the NBA except for the Brooklyn Nets because, dude, the Nets have been on an absolute heater. Yep. Won 9 out of their last 10, won 18 out of the last 20. But KD goes down with a sprained MCL. And you would assume that will allow some of these teams in the East to make up a little ground. We'll see how long he's out. But he is having an unbelievable season, averaging 36-5. They've been winning all kinds of games. Seems like they've
Kyrie's balling too, isn't he?
Yeah, well, all the dumb shit has been put to the side, like they're just playing basketball, man. And even Ben Simmons, like the other day, he hit a free throw. It was remarkable. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay. All right.
But it'll be interesting to see how long Durant is out. But yeah, they've been playing good basketball. But the other teams in the East have to be like, oh, okay, let's take a breath. They're the freakish 7-foot man that hits every shot is on the shelf for a little bit.
Yeah, better take advantage, win some games, make up some ground.
Yeah, also thought about going with our man Shane Beamer. Spencer Rattler coming back for another season.
It's big.
And while he was up and down, like if he can play the way that he played down the stretch, those last couple of weeks for them, I mean, that'll be huge for South Carolina. You know, experience at the quarterback position is great. So, you know, South Carolina, for whatever reason, they lose guys through the portal. Well, it's big for Beamer to hold on to his QB.
Oh, that's everything. It wasn't pretty all season last year with Rattler, but you know, he showed up in some big time games whenever they needed him. 5 touchdowns, I think, and was at the Tennessee game. And yeah, it's been impressive, and they need some continuity there. He's lost some players, but he's doing good things, man. Doing good things. I've been proud of Beamer, and that's a fun team to watch.
Yeah, no doubt. But my winner of the week, it's like a love fest for Brock Purdy this week, man. That guy is, and I get it, he's undefeated as a starter, 5-0, first rookie quarterback to win his first 5 starts since Roethlisberger in 2004.
They won the Super Bowl that year.
Yes, they did, Ted, which makes it very interesting. You look at Purdy's stats, 13 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. He's been awesome. And as a result of that awesomeness, I've seen an unbelievable amount of Brock Purdy content this week. Pro Football Focus picked him as the rookie of the year. Pro Football Talk, rookie of the year. Peter Schrager went on Good Morning Football, said, hey, I know he's only played 5 games, but guess who would be my rookie of the year? Brock Purdy. There's articles.
Wow.
I saw an article on ESPN. They talked to a bunch of backup quarterbacks that have gone and won Super Bowls because they think Brock Purdy can lead the 49ers to the Super Bowl. There's so much Brock Purdy love this week. It's unbelievable, man. There's no doubt he's the winner of the week. Look at Brock Purdy go, Mr. Irrelevant himself.
I love it. I love it for him. I love it for San Fran. It's awesome. But I feel like these people are setting themselves up because we know, and I hate to say this, I'm proud of what Brock Purdy has done. Fantastic young football player, a good kid. But the reverse spin out behind the head grenade turnover is coming, and it's going to come at the worst time, the worst moment, right? Am I the only one that's thinking this?
I think anyone that watched him play at Iowa State is thinking it. But dude, I don't know if it's the offense. I don't know what he looks fantastic.
I know. I get so mad at NFL teams. It often happens where they have the Seahawks. Okay, they did it. Roethlisberger won a Super Bowl in 2004. They had a fantastic team. They took a lot off of the quarterback's plate. You just you hand it off, you distribute it to some playmakers, you make a handful of big throws on third down. We got the rest. The game plans are basic, they're conservative. Like, we can win this thing as long as the young quarterback doesn't screw things up. And it works great. It worked great with Russell Wilson in Seattle. We've seen this play out a bunch of times. Then they win. And then they open it up for the quarterback afterwards, right? The next year, it's like, now we won a Super Bowl like that. Just wait until we open up the offense. Crash. Happens. It's on repeat over and over and over.
Well, we'll see if old Brock Purdy's able to get it done this year, and then we'll see what Shanahan does next season. Is Brock Purdy the guy now in San Fran? I don't know. But I'll tell you this.
If he doesn't win a couple of playoff games, it's going to be hard.
They're like a 9-point favorite against the Seahawks.
And here, the beauty of it? You can build a roster, right? Because you're not paying your quarterback $50 million a year.
I am excited for this weekend. Super Wild Card weekend is fun. And you look at the matchups, Seahawks, 49ers, Chargers at Jacksonville, right? Like the surging Chargers playing against a Jacksonville team that's made the playoffs for the first time in a while. That could be fun. Miami at Buffalo. I don't think that's going to go well. How about this? If a year ago, or let's say 6 months ago, I would have said, Ted, Brock Purdy, and Skylar Thompson are both going to be starting playoff games next season in the National Football League, I think you would have slapped me and be like, dude, you need to go see someone. You're losing it.
Yeah, I still am not. I'm not totally convinced that even at this point that it's going to happen still.
Well, Tua's ruled out. He's out.
Yeah.
Officially. So it's going to be Skylar Thompson for the Dolphins in Buffalo. At least he played at K-State, man. He's used to the cold. So
and it will be that.
But
it will be that.
Yeah.
No,
I think Giants
Vikings
Vikings could be fun.
And Geno Smith. So how many former Big 12 quarterbacks we got playing in this thing this weekend?
Quite a few.
Is that it? Yeah.
Yeah. Ravens, Bengals. What the hell's going on with Lamar Jackson? I assume he's going to play. I don't know. The weirdest game, and I know it's how the NFL system works, but like Tampa Bay won 8 games. And I hate the Cowboys, but the Cowboys won 12. It doesn't make sense that the 8-win team is hosting the games. Like, it just doesn't.
I know.
They have a losing record.
It's just like, it's the same thing. Like, Tampa Bay has a losing record and they're hosting a 12-5 team, and you have teams with winning records that are sitting at home, like Detroit. It's strange, but at least you know the rules going in. They didn't spring it on you. Well, I guess they did spring some rules on Cincinnati.
Yeah, well, and we'll see what that AFC title game looks like. If it's the Chiefs and the Bills, that's going to be interesting. All right, my loser of the week. Thought about going with you, man, because Lincoln Riley announced that Alex Grinch will be retained as USC's defensive coordinator. While that's good for one of your best friends, Brian Odom, like he's keeping his job. Lincoln said, hey, he doesn't anticipate any staff changes. That means another season for you, and the emotional situation there with USC football. I'm sorry, man.
Yeah.
It's good.
Yeah.
It's good for Odom. I'm happy for him.
It is good. It is good. And here's the thing, and I obviously know the USC hate fest, and I get it. And I understand the Grinch hate fest, and I get it. But here's the thing about Alex Grinch. He took over at Oklahoma the year after they had their worst statistical defense in program history. He took over at USC the year after they had their worst statistical defense in program history. It's hard to bounce back from that in just 1 year. Now they've got some. I'm guessing that he's keeping that job, but I think Lincoln's going to have some long conversations about what are we going to do to change? Like what's the plan to change? What do we have to do to get better defensively?
Yeah, but good luck with that, man.
Mm.
I'm an incarnate word guy now. Let's go Cardinals. In all seriousness, though, you got Connor McQueen, who's an awesome dude. It's the OC there. Austin Woods is the offensive
quarterback. Didn't someone just transfer into
Zach Calzada, baby?
That's
Come on.
right. Yeah, that's right.
Come on, Calzada. Give us the version of you against Bama the other year. That's the Calzada we need for the Cardinals. And how about, so you got Austin Woods O-line, Connor McQueen OC. Guess who the old tight ends coach is going to be at Incarnate Word?
Who?
Ty Darlington.
Really?
Yeah, baby. So I'm an Incarnate Word guy now, baby. That's my FCS squad. I've never had one. Now I got one. Ride or die. Let's go Cardinals. Come on.
How about that? That's cool. That's fun.
I need to get some gear.
Where is Incarnate Word? Is it in
San Antonio?
Okay. Yeah. Nice.
We should go to their spring game or something. That'd be fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
We should just play them in the spring game. We should just have them up as a scrimmage team.
That'd be fun. Maybe not for the Incarnate Word players, but for us, it'd be fun. But my loser of the week, the Oklahoma City Thunder. Very similar. Like Tuesday night was painful for the OU OKC Thunder combo fan, which is, hey, over here, that's me. I know the Thunder aren't very good right now, but when you talk about this rebuild, and I know Chet Holmgren is hurt, I get it. And I know a lot of people think Chet's going to fix a lot of the issues. I get that. But when you're trying to rebuild, you need to win the games you're supposed to win. And I know everyone, including, I want him to have a good draft pick too. Right? I do. But to lose to a Miami Heat team that doesn't have 4 of its starters, that's a bad loss. It's been a long time since I've thought, hey, that's a bad loss for the Thunder. But Kenrich Williams, you got to hit your free throws, man. Hit a free throw. And I know the Heat went 40 for 40 from the line, right? NBA record, of course, right? But how about fouling less? Make Jimmy Butler hit a shot. Don't let him get 23 points from the free throw line. Make him put the ball in the basket. And SGA, he was okay. He wasn't his best. I still had 26 points. You're down 1 and you take the super hop step sideways backwards 3. I don't know why. He probably doesn't know why either. Now he's hit similar shots than that to win games before. So maybe that's it. But that's a game you got to win. They shouldn't be losing when they've got SGA and Dort and Giddey and these They shouldn't be losing to teams that are down 4 starters. You got to win those games, man. Come on.
Yep. Yeah. Frustrating. Yeah, the shot selection thing, it's like when you hit one of those shots to win a game, the coach is like, oh my God.
Oh, no.
Because every time you're going to be trying to get that highlight, spinning, fading, leg kicked up, fall away 3-pointer that is like 1 out of 50 with someone's hand in your face. But that's the nature of the game these days.
I hear you. I will say I liked what I saw from Josh Giddey in that game. And I don't know if it's because it was a national televised game. And remember, you got to remember, it was a road game in Miami. Who knows what those guys were doing last night, right? Probably having a good time. That's usually how it works. But everyone wants to talk about the Giddey triple-double and that. But I just like the effort he played with. It looked to me like he played harder than he's been playing. Like there's some moments where, I look at him like, why isn't he more aggressive? And he looked a little more from an aggression standpoint like he did last year against the Heat the other night. And that's a good thing. But there's just some head scratching things going on. It's like, hey, Darius Bazley, and I've never been a Bazley guy. Right? I really haven't. I've been pretty damn critical of him, but Omorui's going to start and Darius Bazley's going to be a DNP. Like he couldn't have helped you. That's where, I don't know, some of those things that just, I'm not an NBA coach. And I think just from everything I've heard and been told, Daigneault is earning some respect throughout the league, but I just really pissed off that they lost that game. And it's like Jimmy Butler's now on my list of like players I hate watching because he's just turned into a flopper that acts like a tough guy. And it's like the worst kind of guy. Saja, I'm just lashing out, Ted. I'm sorry.
Do you think the Bazley thing, like sometimes whenever it seems apparent that a guy should be playing and he's not, is that a hint of some trade stuff possibly going on? When's the deadline? Is it into February or?
Yeah, it could be, right? Yeah, I mean, it could be. Maybe that's the thing, but if they've given up on him, then okay, like I understand. But I mean, you're starting Omoruyi, who is like my height at center. And you got Bazley, long arm, young dude that's, got some rim protecting ability sitting on the bench the entire game. It just, I don't know.
Yeah.
It is what it is. I just wanted the Thunder to beat the Miami Heat when they're not playing 4 of their starters. Is that too much to ask?
No. It's not.
By the way, that was an amazing gambling game. Line was Miami -2. They won by 1. Over-under was 221. 223 points were scored.
Wow.
Those people are amazing.
It essentially told you the score of the game before it happened.
It's amazing sometimes, man.
Wow.
On that note, episode 282 in the books. We'll have a new podcast that'll drop Monday. Just a reminder, you can hear Teddy from 3 to 6 on 94.7 The Ref. You can hear me from 2 to 5 on SiriusXM Big 12 Radio, channel 375. Hope you all have a great rest of your week. Have an awesome weekend. And until next time, we appreciate you all for listening. Do what you always do, Oklahoma. Take care of each other.